are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
¿Cómo están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. That is Evo, and we are back. It is early on a Sunday morning, and we had to do an early show because I got a lot of shit to do today. I got a football game to get to, youth sports-wise, for my son. We got a show to do tonight. So, man, it's been a long weekend. I got school starting back up tomorrow. So this is my last day. This is my last hurrah. I've enjoyed the weekend so far. There's been a fuck ton of sports on. But my man, Evo, welcome in. How you doing? How's the weekend going? I know you got some big shit coming up in the next week as well. Tell me how you're doing on this beautiful Sunday morning.
I'm doing good, brother. Look, we didn't have the show last week. I actually was out there in Ohio getting to see Mike and the family and everything. And my little family out there that's in Ohio, hopefully not for forever or for too much longer. But man, it was a busy weekend last weekend. You know, we got to go out and do all the fun stuff. Great Wolf Lodge, Cedar Point. Cedar Point was like, it felt like we were there for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was long enough at all, man. And honestly, so I did not have as much fun as I wish I would have because I'm still beat up. I had to put the boot on. It was tough to walk around. I was not allowed on rides because of the cast. So it was kind of a let down a little bit for me, but the kids had a good time. But Jesus Christ, it felt like we walked forever when we saw you guys.
Yeah. Look, you know, the whole leash backpacks that people could put on kids. I just want one of those for my woman, like, so I can keep track of her. I can keep track of the kids. Gotta have some way to keep track of the woman though, so she doesn't wander off. But yeah, man, had a great time. Look, I'll tell you, I got the biggest workout going to Great Wolf Lodge because I don't know if you've ever done that, but it was my first time there. But they have this Magic Quest thing. So yeah, you got the water park, which would be like 4 hours there. But the Magic Quest thing, look, if you have kids, young kids, as an adult, I had a pretty good time because I felt like I was in the middle of a role-playing RPG, like Harry Potter type game. You go to this shop. It's a 4-story building, a 4-story resort. Go down to the basement where there's this shop, and it's a wand shop, and you pick out a shaft and a head for your wand, and they like sync it up with each of the kids. And then you get a booklet with like 8 quests and 4 or 5 adventures in it. You got to go to the 3rd floor. You wave your wand at a pedestal to start a quest and say which quest you want to start. And at the end of the quest, you get a rune attached to your wand. And by the end of it, you have the powers to slay a fucking dragon and all this sort of stuff. But the point is, you walk around this whole resort and you point that wand at anything on the wall or wherever, it makes noise, it lights up, it talks to you, it interacts, especially if you're shooting at the correct stuff for the quest, because the quest booklet will be like, find the tree that yelps in the Whispering Woods or something like that. And you go to a hallway in the resort called Whispering Woods, and you find a tree that's making noise, and you wave the wand at it, and it's like, you found me, blah, 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 and it plays a whole thing. So you're doing like these quests. The problem is, and the reason why I was more tired is we did this for about 6 hours. Ooh. They know what they're doing when they build this. They're trying to wear the kids out. So it was like,
makes sense.
Go from the 1st floor to the 4th floor. Now that you've gotten this thing on the 4th floor, go back to the 1st floor, and now go back to the 4th floor. It doesn't like take you 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. You are going up and down, and there's 2 elevators, man, and they're slow. So if you want to get this stuff done, you're taking the stairs. So we did a lot of stairs. Mama,
that sounds kind of terrible.
Daddy Evo were tired as fuck. But
I'm
damn,
sure
if my cakes don't look great, you know. But I had a
dude, your calves were always fucking ridiculously large, anyways.
Yeah, they're pretty big. They're pretty big. Yeah. But I had a fantastic time out there in Ohio. Can't wait to see the boys again. And then and it was great seeing you and the family and everything, getting a little taste of, you know, it's good meeting up with everyone. I got to do that last night, actually, with Spicy Mike and Bobbert Goblin, the shitty Eagles reporter that we have on every
Yeah.
now and then, and $20 is $20 and their families and everything. We all went down to Mexico. We crossed the
Ooh,
border to Agua Prieta and had a little bit of Mexican food,
nice.
which
Nice.
was fan-fucking-tastic. I got all of it in my fridge right now that's leftovers, like ribs and tripe and refried beans and all sorts of good shit. So it was a fantastic time down there. Really good seeing everybody again. So I've had a pretty fucking awesome weekend. But other than that, I'm getting ready for a big weekend starting up for me next weekend, because I've done a little bit of the streaming with Norski Gaming on video games and stuff like that. But that next weekend is when my main game comes out, Starfield by Bethesda. So I've been getting this room prepped and set up and everything ready for lots of streaming, because I expect over starting Thursday around 5 p.m. here in Arizona to put in upwards of 70 something hours streaming over the next 5 days.
Ooh.
Probably more. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a rough one, but Mike, you brought this up earlier. We got another show to record tonight, and I don't know if we really promote it here on the lounge too much. So you want to get
We have
into
not.
what we're doing?
Yeah, man. So I was just about to say, we have got a lot of shit going on. You're talking about doing 70 hours worth of streaming. We got this show. I'm trying to get on some video game streaming as well. I don't have a solid game other than MLB The Show right now. I'm really hoping that NCAA football comes out, because as soon as that drops, there is no way that I will not be streaming that. That is my favorite game of all time. It needs to come back. Caleb Williams, nobody gives a shit that you're not going to take the $500. You're not going to be in college anyways by the time it comes out. So we're going to talk about more about Caleb Williams, but we have got a lot of shit brewing between this show, another show. We've got some other things in the works. We've got graphic artists who are working on some designs for us. Big news, hopefully coming here in the near future. Even more news, but yeah, we got another show. It's called The Talk. Man, I really enjoyed the first one. Me, you, another one of our buddies, Matthew Cooper. We call him Coop. And it's just bullshitting, man. Just kicking it like we were back in the army, sitting around in the office with nothing to fucking do. It's like a weather day every day. And man, I had a great time. Today's show is going to be, I got a little bit more hot button issues. I got one that's going to light some fires. I got some other ones that we're gonna see the reactions. But you know, I had a really good time doing the last show. We got to be careful with our copyright stuff because we got a
Yeah,
copyright ding. But
already.
other than that, I know one show in, copyright ding, and it's not like it wasn't on purpose. We didn't screw anything up. One of the videos that we showed had a song in it. We just
And
got
it
to
was
be a
my
little bit
video,
more
so I'm
careful.
gonna take credit for that one. I fucked up apparently because I hadn't thought about it. You know, I
Right.
just assumed it's not that big of a deal. But look, a lot of fun. We've gotten pretty fucking awesome reactions just from that one show. Now, this isn't going to be
Yeah.
a live show that we're doing. We're going to record it and produce it
Yes.
after the fact, because it is us being able to have a drink with the boys and just kind of freely talk. And when that happens, we say a lot of things that are not PC. And for the most part, we're going to try to leave that in, because that is just us. That if you are offended, it is okay. It is
Yeah.
okay to
100%.
be offended. And that is definitely a point of the show. Like, it is okay to be offended. We are going to push the edges of stuff because we have dark, dirty minds and dirty humor and dark humor. So it's just who we're going to be. And if you don't like it, that's okay. You don't need to watch the talk. But we hope that you guys watch the talk, because it's a lot of fun. We've gotten really good responses. I've already
We
got
have.
multiple people asking me, like, how do I come on? Like, I want to
Yeah,
be a
so
part of it.
I've had 3 people who have said, "Hey, man, I want to be on the show," and I think getting other people involved is gonna be fantastic. We'll
Absolutely.
work that out here in the near future, because we're still getting our feet wet. We're still trying to find the rhythm of the show. I think today will definitely help with that, kind of finding where that rhythm is. It's gonna be fun. But I mean, more content being produced by us, and I mean, dare I say that our network we're working on. So
Yes,
we're
the
gonna
network.
the network. We're gonna leave it at that for now. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. We've had some good responses, like you said. We've had quite a few views already. First episode out. The only place that you can watch that is on YouTube. It is now available to be listened to on your podcast platforms. But if you really want to enjoy the talk, you got to go check out the YouTube so you can see the videos, see the reactions. But man, it was a good time. I'm excited for episode number 2.
Yep. And just to be clear, everybody, just because Penn sold Barstool back to Dave Portnoy for $1, they're not trying to buy us for $500 million yet. But we're in talks.
Yeah. That's a wild deal. We could talk about that after a little bit, but we're going to get the show started the same way we always get it started. We're going to talk about youth sports, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be on my fucking petty bullshit today. So last week, Graydon had his first youth football game of the new season. He is on a team that he was not on last year. He played for the Menor A white squad last year, ended up being an all-star. It was very good. That team made it to the championship game. They did not lose a game until the championship game, I want to say. The team that he is on this year is very poorly coached. The boys have some talent, but they are not as talented as the team last year. And the piss poor coaching that I have seen so far, it does not lead them to make me believe that they're going to have a very successful season in terms of wins and losses, which is tough. But I also don't believe that they're going to have a very successful season in terms of getting better as football players because the coaching is lacking. I said I was going to be on my petty bullshit. This is the start of it. I am also going to wear this shirt to the game today because I volunteered to coach.
That's what I was going to say. You had volunteered to coach.
I most certainly tried to get in there and be one of the coaches. Listen, I am not the greatest coach in the world. I'm a pretty decent coach. Guys that I have coached with like coaching with me. Kids like me coaching them. But I can be a little rough around the edges sometimes. But as long as parents and players understand that, it's awesome. I did not get that opportunity. They said they didn't need me. Whatever happened. But the coaches that they do have need to actually step up and coach. Because I had some questions for my football player after the game. I was like, what coverage are you guys running on defense? My son is a defensive tackle. Like, he doesn't have to worry about coverages, right? He's just shoot the gap, penetrate, depending on what the play is, right? The down distance situation, all that stuff's important. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Are you in fucking zone, man, cover 1, 3? What the hell are you guys doing? He's like, oh, they just tell us to line up and then we just go play. So they don't even know if they're running man or zone on the defensive side of the ball. Last week, a trick play was ran 6 times. The exact same trick play was run 6 fucking times throughout the game, and it hit every single time. Toss, pass. Toss it to the running back, throw it over the top. It was open every single time, and they were playing a team that didn't line up with wide receivers. It was a wing T offense, and it worked every fucking time. There were no adjustments. It was infuriating to watch. So I'm going to be a little bit petty, and I'm going to make sure that G understands his assignments. He does his assignments. I'm just going to coach from the sidelines a little bit and make sure that G is doing the things he needs to do. Parents can disagree. Coaches can disagree with that. But when you don't see coaching happening, I don't know how else you can go about it. Maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe I'm the asshole. Maybe I need somebody else to tell me, you got to let him work it out, give a shot. I know you love playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, and I can get into that a little bit now, I guess. But I do believe that you have to give people in management spots, whether it's coaching or work life or whatever, you have to give them a bit of leash to either hang themselves or show you that they can be competent. At the point that you're at, though, where you're already playing games, the leash has been there. It's practice and now the game. At that point, it's almost like, can you lobby the league and say, hey, this is detrimental to my son's ability to play this game going forward? Like, he's losing a year essentially, and we're paying for this.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the frustrating part comes in. Look, and I'll apologize to you ahead of time that my Vikings brought in Brian Flores and fired Ed Donatel, because it sounds like that's who you got back there coaching your defense. Now, I'll play devil's advocate with this. Maybe Graydon is with the defensive line and they're focused on their stuff in practice, and coverages are linebackers and corners and
There's
safeties.
no calls coming into the defensive side of the ball to call a coverage.
Well, at the younger youth levels, I can see them saying, hey, we just run our base defense and we don't do blitzes and stuff like that, especially if the team doesn't have kids talented enough. And I'm not saying that this is the case, but I know that as I progressed in years, we would add more and more each year to the defense, where, first years I was playing, we were just in a base setup every time because people couldn't, the boys couldn't always do their jobs just sitting in base. But there has to be something that the coaches have said, like if you're playing cornerback, you line up on the closest receiver and you stick on their hip or something like that. You would think that they've done that. I'm not saying they have, because it's very possible that they haven't. I don't know, man. That sucks. That would be very frustrating. It would be very frustrating as a player, especially if I had come from a previous system that did run those sorts of things. I would be asking the questions like, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? Like, we should be doing this right now. Why am I saying this as a player? So, yeah, that's frustrating, man. That sucks.
It is frustrating, but listen, hey, he's still got to go out there. He still has to play to his best abilities. That's the important part right now. Keep playing to your best ability. I mean, and he's learning a new position, so he's got work to do. He's learning how to play left tackle as opposed to center. So there's work to be done there for sure. But man, it was tough to watch, because like you get the same trick play hit on you twice. You're like, okay, we're gonna figure out how to fucking stop this.
Yeah,
6 times.
Quit having it be so embarrassing.
Yeah, that was tough. But we can get off of the U Sports, at least from my end. I am going to be petty today, but it is what it is. Anything going on out there in your neck of the woods, U Sports wise?
I mean, we have U Sports going on. I'm not currently involved with any of them. So go boys, doing all your different U Sports. So.
Yeah. All right. So we had some comments come in. Producer Amber was loving the idea of Great Wolf Lodge. And then our boy, $20 is $20. Good morning, bro, Chacho. I love you. I miss you. I assume that you're back here in the United States. So you go check out $20 is $20 anytime.
We didn't leave him in Mexico last night.
I did not leave him in Mexico. So I hope he's back streaming right now. So go check him out. Is he still on Twitch?
Yep. He might
on Twitch.
Dual stream on Kick as well. I'm not sure, but yeah, absolutely. Go on Twitch. Check out $20 is $20. He's our boy, friend of the show. Hopefully, someone we can get on the talk at some point. Yes. And yeah, you'll see him out there streaming. He's got Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 right now, but Modern Warfare 3 is just around the corner, so he's going to be on that jam too.
Oh man! So I've only been able to play MLB The Show. I can't get the controller in my hand. The dexterity is not there. So all I can really do is press the swing button. However, I've been mashing over the last week. Pretty pumped with my win rate over the last week on MLB The Show. But I need something that I can stream on a consistent basis. And I also need this thing to come the fuck off so I can do that. But I still got a couple weeks on that.
Awesome.
All right. Let's start diving into some other football talk, or I'm sorry, some other sports talk. We'll hold off on the football for just a little bit. We're going to start in the world of baseball. So MLB.
And to be clear, real quick for everybody, we don't have a ton to go over in this show, despite having been gone last week. Look, we have NFL preseason going on, which is great. It's fun. It's good to watch that, but you're not going to garner a whole lot about your teams from that. Maybe some of the lower end players and stuff like that on individual team bases, but we're not going to be able to give you like, oh, the Ravens, because they had a 27 game win streak or whatever it was in preseason, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Obviously not. They're not that team when they actually are playing their real players. So individually on teams, you can tell who's going to be a good backup, things like that. And it's fun to watch as an individual fan of a team. But we're not going to have a whole bunch of information for you. We got some news to go over. But really, next weekend, Probably Friday night. That's really when we're going to be getting into the nitty gritty of things, because we're going to be giving you our Super Bowl predictions. We're going to be giving you our defensive and offensive player of the year predictions. We're going to be giving you the rookie of the year predictions. We're going to be going over fantasy football, because if you are having your draft already, your commissioner's fucked up.
An asshole. Your commissioner's an asshole if you've already drafted for fantasy football, first of all.
Like, realistically, today should be, maybe yesterday should be the first day that you're considering doing drafts. But with preseason games still going on, you just don't know what's going to happen with the rosters. So, and with injuries and things like that. And to be fair, most of the players playing are backups right now. So if you're going to have your draft, this is the earliest that you should consider doing it. But realistically, next week is the perfect weekend, Labor Day weekend. It's a long weekend for some people, myself for sure. It's a great weekend to go out there and have your draft. You can even have your draft up until like Wednesday, because I think we got a Thursday night football game to start off the year. I'm not positive, but we might.
We do.
So next weekend, we will be giving our little draft special, guys to look out for, strategies, things like that, which I still have to completely figure mine out, because we just got our draft order yesterday for the league that Mike and I are in. So we got to figure out.
Very happy I'm not picking fucking 10th this year.
Well, that's me. I'm picking 10th.
Yeah. I was able to make it to the championship game picking 10th last year, which I still dispute as me losing that championship. Bullshit. Asterisk on the trophy. It should not have happened that way. But
but either way, it might be a little bit lighter this week on the show as far as our sports talk, but next week is when we're really going to be kicking it off.
Yep. All right. So with that, we love you too, big guy. $20 is $20. Let's start talking about Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about the Central first before we get into the main storyline kind of going on in Major League Baseball, and it's just a crazy, sad story. But let's start with the AL Central. You guys have opened up a 6-game lead. You guys are starting to pull away with this thing. We're not good at baseball. We have got so many guys who are still hurt. We've got guys that are young, trying to come up and produce. We're giving kids at bats. We're done for the year, I think. I mean, we have 3 rookie pitchers, a guy who's converted from a reliever to a starter, and Noah Syndergaard trying to keep this fucking rotation together. The fact that we are where we are, I'm impressed with, because we have not been very good. This is over, though. I would call it today, August 27th. The race is over, but I mean, there is, I guess, technically plenty of time. There is still a good 50 games, I want to say, left to be had. And
we're at 130 games right now. So
130, so 32 games left. So a little less. I mean, there's a chance, but my God, we are so far behind.
And quite honestly, I don't think the Twins have changed. I think that they're still the same team that they've been the rest of the year. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have a larger win to loss ratio right now at 67 to 63, but it's been more so your team has kind of handed in their ticket and said, we're done. So that's where the lead really has grown in the Central for the Twins. It's not necessarily better performance. It is just the rest of the pack is kind of waning.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have stayed pretty consistent right around where you were, 4 games over 500, but we've now dropped to 8 games under 500. Like, we were hanging right around that 500 mark, and if we were hanging around the 500 mark, we'd definitely still be in this thing. But, I mean, we're 6 games back, 8 games under 500. I don't feel good about this team. They're just going to keep playing kids. We should see a lot of young guys show up here late in the year when you can have those, September call-ups. To get some time, to get some at-bats. We should see a lot of guys, but it's basically over for the Guardians.
Yeah, that's tough, but it is what it is. If there's a time for this to really happen, it's now, because we're jumping into football season, man. So
exactly. So let's talk about the main storyline, though, that's going on in Major League Baseball. And this storyline sucks. This is something that we have talked about a lot this year. What was going to happen with Shohei Ohtani? Was he going to get traded? Is he going to win an MVP? Like, what was going to happen? We didn't know much about what was going to go on until pretty close to the trade deadline. The Angels decided they are going to hang on to Shohei Ohtani. Okay, so they're going for it. They're going to try to make the playoffs, right? And then they go on a terrible streak. They're out of the playoff race. Essentially, they're in a similar situation that the Guardians are in. They're several games under 500. And then the most exciting player in the world tears his UCL. He is going to need possible Tommy John surgery. They might try to rehab him. I don't know what's going to happen because Shohei Ohtani is still going to hit for the Angels throughout the rest of the year. So he's not going to pitch. He's got a torn UCL. He can't play the field because he can't fucking throw, but he's still going to swing. Does this worry you that they're not shutting him down? This could really kind of that $700 million contract that we were prefacing that we thought he could get. If he continues to swing and causes irreparable damage to that UCL and can never pitch again as a DH, he's not worth that amount of money anymore. So this is a very precarious situation for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you assume UCL injury, you had the Tommy Johns. Ohtani already had Tommy Johns in late 2018. This would be his second one. Now, we've talked a lot about Brock Purdy in football and having the UCL injury, and it's not Tommy John surgery. But in general, I feel like muscles in a body part that is being used, they're all going to be interconnected in one way, shape, or form. Yeah, you might not be using all of your UCL to swing a bat, but it's still part of your arm. It's still got to be doing something, and moving it around and continuing use like that can't be good for it. He's not decided whether he's having a second Tommy John surgery at any point. I feel like he really should, and the sooner the better, honestly, because if he's able to get that fixed, rehab, be ready for next season, not have to be a problem, you're still going to have teams that are going to bite on that potential. What makes him special isn't just his bat. It is the fact that he does everything on the team. He pitches, he plays the field, he can bat, he does everything. And that's not to denigrate him at all, but as just a hitter, we're having a different conversation about the contract like you brought up. So, if the Angels really want to go forward with him long term, they should try to get him in his best shape possible for that long term run. We're not looking at this season. We're looking at his career if I'm the Angels. So get him healthy, get him fixed up. It's a weird situation about how he had pitched, thrown like 70 something, and had some strain or fatigue or something in the arm, and he declined imaging on it, went out and threw 96
I was going to bring that up.
outing, and then 26 pitches in the most recent outing before he left because of that arm fatigue when it was actually found out that he had the UCL injury. So he's obviously pushed to keep playing. I think he wants to keep playing, which is the competitor in him, but he needs to have the team, his management stuff step in and kind of be like, look, man, do you want to play baseball right now? Or do you want to play baseball for your future and the rest of your life and set up generational money in your family?
Yeah. I think part of it is a little bit that he probably wants to win the MVP this year. He can still win the MVP just by swinging the bat for the rest of the year because he's done enough on the mound and he's already fucking hit 43, 44 bombs. Like, that's an MVP season. He can still win the MVP. He doesn't need to keep playing, but he probably feels like he has to continue to play if he's going to win that MVP. The fact that there was imaging that was suggested, but then turned down, and the way it's being reported and who is leaking this information, it almost seems like a finger pointing thing going back and forth between Shohei and his people and his representation and the club. That makes me worried for Angels fans that they're going to cause some damage between that relationship, and Shohei is not going to re-sign with the Angels on a long-term deal because they're trying to point fingers at who is responsible for the most exciting guy in baseball being injured. The team is trying to say, this is Shohei's fault. We told him to get imaging, and he declined.
Yep,
that's not good.
I'm throwing up the dummy thick idiot conjecture line here because I'm about to say, look, I'm not a medical professional. Like I said, my thought process is if I have something fucked up in my arm and I'm swinging a bat, I'm still using my arm, I could be causing damage. For all I know, it's really not that big of a deal. Maybe it isn't. But he still went out there already and had 2 stolen bases, 2 hits, and an RBI on Saturday. So he's obviously still capable of playing the game, being a batter, but defensively, it's not an option. Pitching is not an option. So you are really limiting yourself with the player. And maybe that's enough. And maybe the UCL wouldn't be an issue. Rehab times are a lot quicker. I just would assume that if the Angels think that they're going to make the playoffs and possibly make a run at things, that just cuts down on the amount of rehab time that you have. If the Angels were not making the playoffs this year and they wanted to do this, maybe it makes a little bit more sense because he can have surgery next day after the season's over and start that rehab process and be ready for next year. The deeper you go in the playoffs, I think that starts to come into question a little bit more. But also, we just don't know what they
make it at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know what the rehab time is for a pitcher anymore in baseball.
Typically, for a pitcher, you can come back and begin a throwing program about a year afterward, but you're not ready to be fully ramped up for about 18 months. I mean, and they're 10 and a half games out of their division. In the wild card, they are 10 and a half games out. So they're basically done.
Yeah.
They have to almost win out to have a chance.
They have to win out
make it.
And have their competition have a lot of losses, give them a lot of help.
Yeah, they're gonna struggle to make it at this point anyways. Shut him down, get him started on his rehab, but I don't know if Shohei wants to do that. And then that's where finger pointing comes back in. Who's to blame? Who's responsible? I mean, because we were talking the largest contract in North American sports history was Shohei Ohtani. I still think it's possible, depending on who offers it. I don't think we're going to hit the $700 million mark now, though. We may see Shohei take a 1-year deal, but who's going to sign Shohei on a 1-year deal, though? Because you're not going to get him as a pitcher. That's pointless. So you got to go big with Shohei here. Or what's he going to do? Sit out? He just re-signs and rehabs with the Angels? This causes a lot of problems for the Angels and for Shohei Ohtani. He needs to just, I think, rehab and get this fucking process started. The Angels are going nowhere this year. Stop beating your body up. You are a generational guy, largest contract in the history of North American sports history guy. Just rehab.
Yeah, that's for
Get
me.
Pride out of there.
It's the generational player part. Not even the money. Yes, it makes sense for him money wise that he should, try to get as much money as possible. But it's just rare that you see generational players like this. We want to see him play. We want to see him do good, and we want to see him get healthy for it. So hopefully he's able to make that decision pretty quick, shut himself down, and start getting better so that way he can keep playing amazing baseball going forward.
Absolutely. All right, man, I got nothing else baseball-wise. You got anything baseball?
No, sir.
All right. So we are going to flip the script. We are going to hop over to football, but not pro football. We're going to talk some college football. College football week 0 got started yesterday. There were a couple games that I watched, the ones that had ranked teams in them. This is week 0, so typically there's not too many really good games. There were no really good games because the games that I watched that had a USC and a Notre Dame, they ended up being blowouts. USC game a little bit closer in the first half than it was in the second half, and Notre Dame absolutely rolled over Navy. But college football season is fucking back. I'm pumped. Week 0 is basically in the books. I don't think we have another game until next Saturday, but man, I'm excited for college football season to get back. We have got a lot of dudes at the quarterback position that we are going to have eyes on all throughout the year. There's a potential another 4-5 guys in this upcoming draft that could go in the first round. And we got to see Caleb Williams go out there last night. Dude, he fucking lit it up. Caleb Williams is a stud. He is so good at football.
Well, that's the talk is he's the next Mahomes.
Yeah.
Which I think that's saying a lot, but I mean, he looks like he's going to be pretty damn good. He's kind of your, as of right now, consensus number 1 overall pick if he decides to come out into the draft this year. which is now in question.
It is in question. So let's talk about we'll talk about a little bit about the USC game, how they did, and then we'll talk about Caleb Williams and the cryptic things that he is saying. So USC, they struggled a little bit in the first half. San Jose State kind of hung around for the first half, but eventually USC was able to put everything together. That offense is going to be high powered. They have a chance in their last year, the last year of the Pac-12, to go ahead and make it to the playoffs, which is crazy because a Pac-12 team has never made it to the playoff format for a national title since they have had one. This is probably the last year the Pac-12 will, exist, and this is probably their only chance to get in with USC and Caleb Williams. They were able to turn it on. That offense is very, very good. The defense could use some work, but they're going to be around all season. And if you like betting on college football, or if you like doing fantasy football, there's a new way that you can do football, college football, and fantasy football. You can go to Bandwagon Sports. You go ahead and all you do is you pick teams. You are picking teams based on how many games they are going to win throughout the year. You pick the 8 teams that you want. Everybody's based on a points system, and you can play your buddies and figure out which one of you knows college football better. So go check out Bandwagon Sports. Boom. Nice little slide in of one of the guys that we kind of help out on this show, and he helps us out as well. So, man, they're going to be good. Very, very good. Caleb Williams, though, dude, he looks like he's going to be legit. Is he going to come out, though? That's a big conversation right now.
Yeah, there were comments made, I believe, I don't know if they're directly from his camp or not, but there were comments made that basically saying that depending on how the NFL season is shaking out and how it is looking like the first overall pick is going, what team is going to have that first overall pick, he might decide to not declare for the draft. Which would be really interesting. We're talking like Eli Manning territory and stuff where we've kind of last seen this, a player doesn't want to play for a specific team, which I can get. It's part of, if you're the number 1 overall pick as a quarterback, you're probably typically going to a not so good team because there's a reason why they're picking number 1 overall. And if, we've seen how that has really been a detriment to some guys who were expected to be really good players. You have an Andrew Luck who his career never was able to take off because of injury because he was put onto a bad team that couldn't protect him. And you would hate to see that happen to a Caleb Williams type of player. So I get that. But also it's your chance to make it to the NFL and make enormous amounts of money. So also beggars shouldn't be choosers completely. That being said, it'll be really interesting to see how things work out and shake out because you don't know who the first overall pick is going to be. You don't know who's going to have that first overall pick. We can make guesses. By the time the college football season is done, the NFL season is not done. And I don't know the timelines for making declarations on going to the draft or not, things like that. But for USC's sake, I'm sure they want to know one way or the other sooner than later. But I think my gut tells me that he'll probably still end up coming out. It'll just be if he comes out and a team that is the first overall pick is not to his liking, his representation will basically be like, look, this guy does not want to play for you. We're sorry. You need to trade your pick.
And he is setting that up right now. He set that up before he played his first snap of his what is presumed to be the last season of his college football career. So he knows that there are certain teams that he doesn't want to go to. But he didn't say if the Cardinals get that pick, I'm not fucking going. He didn't say any team specifically, but everybody can go ahead and make guesses. They can have their conjecture. We can guess. And I think everybody's immediate guess is that the Cardinals organization is the organization he doesn't want to go to because of their terrible report card, their terrible record projections, their terrible coach, and the fact that he's going to be taking over for Kyler Murray, who they're going to have to try to trade. Like, that is not a great situation if you're a Caleb Williams. So it makes sense that he would say that. But also, there's a new element to this. I think he probably still will come out, but it's not the same as it was. This is something that when NIL started, we kind of prefaced. Caleb Williams is projected to make $1.6 million this year off of his NIL deals. That is a substantial amount of money. That is more money than the base salary for some of the rookie quarterbacks who are in the NFL now. If you're not a first round guy, or if you're a late round guy, he's making more money than some of those guys are already. So if he doesn't have the option to go where he wants to go, he can go back to college. He can still make a lot of money, especially if Caleb Williams this year becomes only the second guy in history to win 2 Heismans. He becomes the most marketable athlete in all of college sports, well surpassing Livy Dunn as the second 2-time Heisman winner. So it's not just, I don't want to play for the Cardinals. It's, I need a team that's going to support me and is going to be where I want to be, because I can just go back to college and make a fuckload of money.
Yeah. And look, I think if it turns out that, and I don't know that it'll be out in public, this has got to probably to stay somewhat more professional, be behind closed doors sorts of things, where Caleb Williams' camp would go to, let's say, the Cardinals and say, he doesn't want to play here. It's not going to happen. It sucks for the Cardinals, but the amount that they're going to get in return for that first overall pick is going to be insane if it's for Caleb Williams. Insane.
At least 3 firsts.
The Cardinals already have 2 first-round picks right now because they got the Texans' first-round pick as well.
Yeah.
And the Texans, we don't know what sort of team they're going to be. They could be closer to 500, but still, they could have a higher pick. The return, if you are truly trying to do a rebuild here in Arizona, which is sure as fuck seems like they are, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
You really turn that pick into a lot more. And yeah, there isn't another Caleb Williams in this draft class, but like we said, there's 4 or 5 guys that could be first round.
I like Drake May, man. I really like Drake May.
You got Bo Nix out of Oregon and stuff. You got a lot of names.
I'm not high on Bo.
But there's a lot of options.
There are a lot of dudes.
So if you're trying to do a rebuild, rebuilds don't happen in 1 year. Getting the quarterback is the most important part, but they don't happen in 1 year. And if you're able to get yourself the draft capital that you would be able to request from a Caleb Williams first overall pick style trade, yeah, you can really get a lot going there. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
If you trade out of that pick, you can get a ton of picks back. You're going to get at least 3 ones for that pick because somebody knows they're going to go get Caleb Williams, right? That's what they're doing. You're going to get 3 ones. And then if you really are dead set that Kyler Murray's not the fucking dude, and you're going to get a new coach and they're going to go and they're going to adjust and find a guy for a new coach, because we all assume that Gannon is not making it past 1 year. That's more picks. Like, you're going to get at least somebody's going to give up a 1 for Kyler Murray, right?
I think his floor is a 2. So so a 1's definitely out there.
There's additional picks there. Like you could really in 2 years have so many fucking first round picks that you could just package all of that shit together and you could do some fucking damage if Caleb Williams says that, no, you're the team that I don't want to play for.
Yeah.
Like the Cardinals could be flipping this thing around fairly quickly if they dump the assets the right way and get good returns for their picks, which is something we're going to talk about a little bit later as well.
Yeah, they've got to start with their off the field stuff. They have to fix the facilities. They have to fix the culture, all that stuff. If Monty Ossenfort, if this is his long plan as the GM there, smart on him. I don't know that I'm buying off on this being the plan yet, or that he's actually being this smart with it because of some of the moves that have been made. But it's very obvious that the tank job is occurring right now. Like that's 100% obvious.
And you're tanking for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, you should. Well, you should be.
Yeah.
But if I'm in Caleb Williams' camp, I'm not saying I don't want to play for the Cardinals. I'm saying I don't want to play for the Cardinals in this current state, and I need assurances that things are different by the time that I come play for you, because it's not a terrible situation for him. They've got a couple receivers there, albeit small guys. That they don't have a coach, so who they bring in as the next head coach is big. If I'm Caleb Williams,
Well, and
off
even
the
if
field stuff.
if they get Caleb Williams, if they hold on to that pick, they're gonna have to trade Kyler. That's still, you can net a first round pick for Kyler right now. Somebody will give up a first round pick for Kyler Murray. And it's probably the Denver fucking Broncos.
So Denver, Tampa, we've got a couple.
Yeah.
By the time the end of the season is over, we'll probably have even more options for you of places that he can go, because teams are going to be off on the quarterback.
Caleb Williams, you take with the number 1 overall pick. If you finish the worst, you still have the Texans, and you can get another pick for Kyler. There's a lot of things. The Cardinals could be in a decent position next year. This year, Cardinals fans, you are in for a long fucking ride. You are going to be looking at some Nathaniel Hackett type shit with the Broncos last year.
To be completely honest, though, it's way better for the Cardinals than it was for the Broncos fans last year, because they thought it was Broncos country. Let's ride. We're going to have a decent season. The Cardinals, before the season ever started, they know what's happening. I talked to Spicy Mike last night, and he said, I'm hoping for 3 wins. And I said, why? I'm rooting. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I'm rooting for the tank.
I want one win.
I'm shooting for the first overall pick. I don't care about the wins even. Like
you don't want to be the only team in history to go 0-17. You need one win. 1-16. If you're a Cardinals fan, it's gonna be painful, but trust me, that's what you need to do.
That's you know what? I could get by with not taking a win, and it probably is because I'm not a Cardinals fan, but
exactly.
You
don't know what it feels like to watch your team go an entire fucking year and not win a game.
Yeah.
It is awful.
I probably wouldn't be watching much of the games, to be completely honest, but I can see the vision. I can see the potential future of this team. And as a fan, I would be like, okay, let's go for it. Like the same way that you go to make a Super Bowl run, they are going to make a run at the number 1 overall pick. And like, let's fucking do it. Don't half-ass something, whole-ass the whole thing, and go after that first overall pick. They should trade Kyler now if they could get that one for him. I don't think they could, because he's running around in sports bras and injured.
Yeah.
But like, you can absolutely see how in 2 to 3 years this team could be very competitive again if they make a lot of the right moves. We'll just see, though, because we don't know what Monty Austin-Fort has in him. And Bidwell, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with him?
Yeah, we have no idea. That team is in so much disarray. But so I got nothing else college football-wise. We kind of made the transition over into the NFL, talking about Caleb Williams and all the things going on there. So you ready to just hop straight over into the NFL and talk about all that stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can just go into the NFL. And to talk real quick about the Cardinals, they did trade away another couple players here. Isaiah Simmons for a 7th round pick to the Giants, which Isaiah Simmons was a 1st round pick. He's that hybrid linebacker, safety kind of rover player, but he's a big dude. He's just uber athletic. Never really reached his full potential of being a 1st round pick, but I still think that he's a solid player, and he's been in a very maligned defense. For a 7th round pick, I'm absolutely doing that trade if I'm the Giants.
Yeah,
like
100%.
That's an easy one for me, because I think that you could still have gotten close to a 5th for Isaiah at this point.
Yeah, so you could get probably at least a 5th. You could get him for a 7th. I like this kind of a piece. You can move him around, a little Swiss Army type. Reminds me, and I just forgot his name. Safety out of Michigan was Brown. Then we went to the Giants. Jesus Christ.
Jabril Peppers?
Jabril Peppers. Reminds me of Jabril Peppers a little bit. Could be that kind of guy. He's not going to, I don't think he's ever going to flourish into like this premier player, but can be a very solid Swiss Army knife piece in a defense, but he was lined up as a middle linebacker at one point, as an outside linebacker. I think they tried to play him in the nickel a little bit. To me, he profiles perfect as a box strong safety. That just put him there and let him go to work and stop changing his assignment so much. But that's not what happened in Arizona. So this get for the Giants, I believe, is going to be fantastic. It replaces a Jabril Peppers, and he did it for a 7th round. You get a former 1st round pick. I understand he has not been super productive, but is that a product of the kind of dog shit defenses that we saw in Arizona? Or is that
still see stuff out of him every now and then. So I think that there's still something there. He profiles into that big nickel role very well, which
Yes.
is that hybrid linebacker safety type of role, which is becoming more popularized in the NFL. I know that my team has switched into having a big nickel where one of our safeties actually plays down in a little bit more of a linebacker style role in Josh Metellus. So he would have been a perfect fit for us if Josh Metellus wasn't looking so good. But like long term,
we played a big nickel last year.
Yeah. So
Like,
I think that's a great pickup for the Giants. I talked to Billy Coleman, our Giants fan. He believes that he's going to slip right into a linebacker role, but probably more that big nickel role.
yeah, that's where I think his best spot should be. That strong safety down in the box, just be a box safety, be a big nickel. But let's talk about the return though, because we were like the Cardinals have a lot of needs, a shitload of needs, and they're dumping guys. Kyler Murray's probably going to be one of those guys that gets dumped, especially if Caleb Williams decides to go there, and that happens. They need to get more fucking return for what they're giving away, because a seventh for Isaiah Simmons seems like it's very light. I don't know why every team in the NFL is not like, oh yeah, I'll give you the my seventh round pick for an Isaiah Simmons, a guy who's been in the league for a little while. Yeah, he's going to be better than almost every seventh round pick that you could get.
Yeah, I'm checking this out right now. He is on his 4th year with a 5th year option declined. So that's part of it, is that if the Cardinals are in this rebuild, they think that they might have to pay him too much. They just move on and get some compensation for him now, rather than try to deal with it next offseason, possibly re-signing him maybe for too much money. If they are truly doing this roster dump, that involves the salary as well. Take the hit on the books this year, get rid of stuff, and a little bit of something in return. That's the only benefit to it. Now, again, I still feel like you could have gotten more than a 7th round pick, but maybe that's what the market was offering at this point in the season. We've seen that though with like other guys. D-Hop, you really expected them to get something for him.
Yeah.
And to walk away with nothing. That is a little bit of an indictment on Monty Ossenfort. But again, he's probably making difficult decisions where teams are like, we're going to give you dog shit for this. I would still take the dog shit over nothing, but like you got to try to get a little something for a D-Hop to put towards your future.
Like when GMs get too stuck on their ego, I can't give this guy away for this pick. It's better than getting nothing. It's way better than getting nothing. Too often we see GMs that hang on for dear life because I made this pick. If I flip on it, it's me admitting that I was wrong. And honestly, it kind of derails a lot of teams and their chances. Like, just admit when you're wrong, right?
Yeah. And
so
look, Monty can do that. He's the new GM. He didn't make those moves.
That's true.
So he's making his legacy right now by not making a little bit better moves for the team. But again, it isn't as much about this year. It's about the future years. Maybe he's just trying to get things rolling and moving on. I don't know. That sounds like copium on my part, and I'm not a Cardinals fan. So, but we did have some other trades happen. The Cardinals also traded away one of their tackles.
Yes. Go ahead and talk about the Arizona Cardinals and their tackle. Dude, I got to use the bathroom. Gotta go. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull up it because I don't know exactly who the guy is. Jones, I believe. I don't know if he was expected to be a starter or not. Let's see here. There's Isaiah Simmons, Josh Jones to the Texans for a 5th round pick. And then the other one that I'm sure Mike will want to talk about once he's back from draining the main vein, leading the lizard as it was. A 5th round pick went to the Cleveland Browns for Josh Dobbs and a 7th round pick. And again, I think that's a little bit more of the interesting one, especially for Mike. Let's see here. It says on ESPN the trade was a bit of a head scratcher at first because the 26-year-old Jones could have competed for a starting spot going into the future. And with a team that's kind of looking towards the future, if you think this guy's got potential to be a starter, you'd want to keep him around. So who knows? I don't know. They've got DJ Humphries and Paris Johnson Jr. as their starting tackles right now. Paris Johnson, rookie, we'll see what he turns out to be. DJ Humphries, he's been okay as a left tackle, but I don't think he's a solid lock going forward. And maybe Jones could have competed for that spot or given you some relief of the cap hit that you get from Humphreys in going into the future without much of a drop off in play. So I don't know. I think the only real remaining trade asset on this team going forward is kind of Buda Baker. He's like the only player on that defense that is worth anything. They just gave him that, extra money for this year, a $300,000 bonus in order to stick with the team. I don't know if that prevents them from trading him or not. I mean, there's another 2.4 million in bonuses on the table for him too, potentially. But if you get a needy team that needs a safety and you're able to trade Buda for a third or a second, I mean, absolutely. I think they pulled the trigger on that just because Buda's the only guy on the defense that's worth anything. Getting rid of Jones, it's still another one of those kind of head scratchers. I would think that he'd be someone that you would keep for the future. But a 5th round pick isn't terrible for a developmental offensive lineman. But then we go to Josh Dobbs. It's weird that they made a trade to bring in another quarterback in a relatively kind of deep quarterback room. And not deep with good players, but you've got Colt McCoy, you've got Clayton Tune, you've got David Blau. Now you have Josh Dobbs. Dobbs being a long-term backup, much akin to Colt McCoy. And not to mention Kyler Murray, who's going to probably start the year on the PUP or the IR and might stay there the whole year. McCoy is probably your starter. Clayton Tune has been competing with him for that. Now Clayton Tune, who is a very late round pick, is probably practice squad, and you probably roll with Colt McCoy and Josh Dobbs. And then you drop Tune to practice squad, and Blau is a bye-bye. We're just talking about Dobbs going there to Arizona.
So I had you on the screen while I was using the bathroom. So, yeah, the tackles, that doesn't make sense. None of them are great, but you still get more. And then you make the trade to go and get Josh Dobbs, which is what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
Why? What's wrong with Colt? Is Colt McCoy not going to be on this team anymore?
No, I think that's what I was saying is I think Colt McCoy goes into the year as a starter. He was competing with Clayton Tune, who McCoy was winning that, but Tune was still getting some talk as like, hey, he's the younger guy with upside. Maybe we try to play him. But at this point, I think this move probably drops Clayton Tune to the practice squad. Maybe third string.
I think Colt McCoy is probably cut at this point.
Really? You think Dobbs will end up being the starter there? Or Tune?
Yeah, so not right away, but I think Dobbs eventually will be the starter. You don't go out and make that trade to get a guy if you're happy with the quarterbacks that you do have. But I don't understand why you make this, like, that you're trying to not win, right? Like that, We've been talking about them tanking for a while. Why are we going out and making a trade for a Josh Dobbs to try to be a better football team because you're unhappy with the quarterbacks that you do have when you need to lose? And what the fuck is wrong? Like, Colt can still, I think, be a backup. He's not a guy you want to start every week, but he's in the system. He knows what's going on. Like,
well, maybe they know just how bad their offensive line is going to be, and the rough road of 17 games ahead that they're looking at. Colt McCoy might not last 17 games. You're going to need someone else to play. You might need 2 extra guys to play. So having a McCoy, a Dobbs, and a Tune all around, you can rotate through these guys as they go up and down, because for sure these guys are going to be taking some bumps along the road. So maybe that's the thought process. He's a relatively cheap option to come in as a backup quarterback, because that's all your team is consistent of, is backups right now, with Kyler being not playable. So that's where I think that they're kind of going with it. David Blau is on the road. Clayton Tune might make the roster as a third guy, but I think that they keep both McCoy and Dobbs and just go with a hot hand or whoever's not injured.
Maybe.
Until you get to having Kyler possibly come back, which I think if you are looking at a losing record midway through the year, he's just going to be shut down for the rest of the year. But who knows? Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting thing that happens with that situation. I don't understand what they're doing with the trades. They need to get more. They need to stop giving assets for things that they don't necessarily need. Cardinals fans, I feel for you. I mean, trust me, I understand how it goes. Browns fan my whole life, and it sucks when you suck. Like, and this year, the Cardinals are going to fucking suck. Like, real bad. They're going to be hard to watch.
Yep. Now, we had some other news going on concerning running backs. We have Josh Jacobs coming back to the Raiders. He has decided to come back. They're giving him a little bit of extra money, contract worth up to $12 million this year. So, Raiders, you got yourself a running back for this year.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Isn't going to be completely disgruntled. But in other news, the Colts have allowed Jonathan Taylor to seek a trade. Like the trade that he's been requesting, they've given the thumbs up for. He's out there hunting for a trade. We've already heard that Miami has put in an offer that has been rejected. A couple other teams that have been rumored, like the Bills and things like that. There's other teams out there that are going to be hunting for him, and the rumor mill is saying that people are going to be surprised what the Colts will be able to get in return for him. And that sounds surprising to me because with the running back market the way that it is, you wouldn't think a team would give up very much for a guy who wants a bunch of money.
Christian McCaffrey got what? Traded for a 2, a 3, and a 4?
Something like that, yeah.
I think we're probably looking at something similar here. A 2 and a 4 gets you Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor doesn't provide as much in the pass game as a CMC does.
Maybe a little bit better injury history, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Or so less wear on tread.
We're looking somewhere around probably that return, a 2, a 3, and a 4. I mean, and there's plenty of teams that are willing to go out there and do it. The Dolphins already tried, even though I kind of like what the Dolphins are doing with their running back room. I like how multiple they are in their running back room. But there are some teams. There are some teams that could really take a guy like that and make a pretty strong run, but you'd want to send him over to the NFC if you're the Colts. You definitely don't want to send him to the AFC because then you got to run into him, far more often. But there's going to be teams that need him, like the Eagles. Just go dump a bunch of shit and try to go get Jonathan Taylor. Apparently that's already been talked about. That makes the Eagles very dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that because that just makes the Eagles a lot more scary.
Yeah, so
there are Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl last year that has a quarterback that's dual threat and scary, a running game that was pretty damn good last year, albeit is lacking, I guess, in the room as much now because I'm not a huge DeAndre Swift fan, but you've got great receivers there. They had a great draft for a defense that was already really good. Addition by subtraction by getting rid of Jonathan Gannon. You're looking at a really good team.
A couple of picks and go get the Jonathan Taylor. That team's back in the Super Bowl, and I have no doubts about it.
Yeah. They would be a very strong team. That would be scary. I know Goose would love it, but
and I think anybody who has a contending team is going to go and pay to get a Jonathan Taylor if you have a mediocre running game, or if you are a team that loves to run the ball, adding an extra guy like a Jonathan Taylor becomes huge. So
it's not been the Eagles' MO to do that. I mean, since LaShawn McCoy, they really haven't had a premier guy. They've been doing a lot of rotation running back rooms and stuff like that. And there was talks in the draft about them possibly going after one of those top tier running backs, but it would just be so out of the style of Howie Roseman. Well, I think Howie Roseman's style should be winning a Super Bowl.
Yes, that's exactly right. So if because you got a couple of young backs there, you add one guy like that. Jonathan Taylor may not love his role, but you do that. You could do it this year, and you can go win a Super Bowl this year, and then it all pays off. It makes too much sense. But I want to talk more about the entire situation going on between Jonathan Taylor and Jim Irsay, because this has become the most contentious relationship in the entire NFL. I'm going to quote the great Jamie Tart and say that this relationship is just it's poopy. It's just poopy. Like it's so bad. There is no reconciling this relationship. Jonathan Taylor will never play for the Colts again. Jim Irsay does not want Jonathan Taylor to play for the Colts again. He will not pay him either. He will pay any other running back to come in and play for the Colts, it will not be Jonathan Taylor. It is not going to happen. It is poopy.
We talked before about how he was willing to shell out like $20 million to help move a whale back into the ocean. The whale died, by the way, before it made it to the ocean. So that worked out well. But damn if I pay my, all-pro running back.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Like, Irsay is a guy that I've heard people talk about. Like, Pat McAfee talks about him with reverence. Like, this man is amazing. He is great. He paid Pat he received his bonus for making the Pro Bowl, but didn't go to the Pro Bowl. He still got paid. So why is this becoming such an issue with Jonathan Taylor that he won't fucking pay him? Is it because the running back market is where it's at? Like, or is it because Jonathan Taylor tried to overplay his hand and say, listen, motherfucker, I am this team. I need you to go ahead and pay me. No matter what, it's there. That relationship is done. We will not see Jonathan Taylor play for the Colts. Sorry, Torres. It's over.
It is really a love-hate relationship, I believe, between the players and Irsay, and it just depends on the player. Sometimes he does good things for him. I think that with Andrew Luck, they paid him money that wasn't owed or something like that.
Yep. They paid him when he retired.
Yeah. So it's like he's done good things for certain players and then just completely blackballed other players. So I don't know. It is an interesting situation, but where do we think that ultimately Taylor ends up?
I think he's going to go to the Eagles. I truly believe that he's going to go to the Eagles. Howie Roseman is going to be like, you know what? We are that close to winning a Super Bowl. That team is going to, I think, be very, very good again. I don't know if there's a team in the NFC that scares me. If I'm the Eagles right now, you add that piece, you slow the game down a little bit more, you could beat the Chiefs. Jonathan Taylor allows you to do that. I truly believe that that's where the trade is going to be, because I don't think that Jim Irsay will trade him inside the AFC unless he truly thinks that Jonathan Taylor's not that good. Like, yeah, fuck it, go to the AFC. You're not gonna be able to beat us anyways.
Yeah,
I don't know how big Irsay's head or his balls are right now to say that, but I think he's got to go to the NFC.
Your three most likely options are probably Miami, the Eagles, and Buffalo. But because two of those teams are AFC, it's probably would lean a little bit more towards Philly. I think a dark horse one, which no one's talking about, which I don't know that it's a good one or not. The Panthers, they don't really have a running room. They have a brand new quarterback. They want to get some stability in the offense for him. That's something that Frank Reich could do. He knows Jonathan Taylor and knows what to do with him. I mean, Jonathan Taylor had great years with Frank Reich, so that could be some form of stability that Frank Reich could be looking for his rookie quarterback.
That is true. And then you can pay the running back now, because by the time the quarterback contract is due, the running back contract falls off. I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually, now that I think about it. Panthers. Yeah. I could see that.
That's my dark horse that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere. I don't know what the Panthers cap room or picks look like, but I feel like you can make it happen.
Yeah, I think you could probably make that happen. Especially if you can probably sign Jonathan Taylor. You can get him 3 years, 40. He'd be happy with, especially if you can guarantee 25 of that.
Yeah, if you're able to heavily guarantee that, yeah, you can probably get him happy with it. I think at this point he'll just be happy to be out of Indy, and so the contract will be.
I mean, well, he's there. Concern. He's at camp. He is holding in. I don't believe he has put on pads one day yet. I don't think he will. But he's not getting fined either. So the situation's over. Torres, I love you, bro, Chacho, but you've seen the last of Jonathan Taylor. Time to get on the Anthony Richardson train, because that kid is going to be electric.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to have Jonathan Taylor to root for.
Another move that happened, and possibly our last thing to talk about here, Trey Lance gets traded. So the Trey Lance saga kind of turns around. Sam Darnold ends up getting called the number 2 quarterback. Trey Lance then doesn't practice the next day and is allowed to seek trade options. They were talking about, hey, we're going to let Trey Lance play most of this third preseason game. They didn't get that happening because he was moved to the Cowboys. Now, what do you think about this? It was a fourth round pick to send him over to the Cowboys. What do you think that means for the future? What do you think that means for the future of the Cowboys quarterback room?
I don't think it's good for the quarterback room. I actually posted a little meme on the Facebook page and the Twitter. I think this is going to cause problems. I really, really do. Now, we could say that Trey Lance is not a starter. He's going to be a backup. But there's a lot of things that are going on around this Trey Lance thing. We haven't really seen Trey Lance do a whole lot. We haven't actually seen him play too much. So we don't know if he is good or not good. And obviously, we're not at practice. But Brock Purdy was going to be the dude. You got to move Trey because you gave up 3 first-round picks to go get him. You can't have your 7th-round quarterback start and have your guy who was a 3rd overall pick that you gave up 3 ones to go get sit behind him. It just creates too much chaos inside the quarterback room. But bringing in Trey Lance to Dallas feels like a little bit of an indictment on Dak to me. Some people will say, no, Dak is the dude. But every time Dak throws a pick or leads the league in interceptions like he did and just has not been able to get over that hump, you can hear Cowboys fans, the murmurs growing and growing and growing. Is Dak the guy? Is Dak the guy? And now you have a former 3rd overall pick sitting behind Dak that we have not really seen play football. Can he take over that job? I think it's going to cause a little bit of problems unless they just come out and flat out say, Dak is the starter. Trey Lance is going to be his backup. We wanted to bring Lance in because we didn't like our backup quarterback situation.
He's not even necessarily the primary backup. Right now, he's slated to be the 3rd stringer. So their current quarterback room is Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, who came in and looked okay. Like, he had Cowboys fans pretty happy with his performance. Then you have Will Grier, who's going to be he's going to be moved out. Yep.
Who had a great preseason.
He's been told that he's going to be gone. But then, you have Trey Lance coming in as your 3rd guy. I'm not a huge fan of carrying 3 quarterbacks on most rosters, but with the new rules this year, a lot of teams are probably going to opt to do that because you don't have to have them considered when you're active players on game day.
Right.
But, I mean, Trey Lance, I don't know what the upside is there anymore. If he wasn't able to be developed by Kyle Shanahan out there in San Fran into something
in
really
the easiest quarterback-friendly offense you could get,
I don't know that Brian Schottenheimer or Mike McCarthy are going to be the ones to develop him. So out there in Dallas, this is more of a flyer, which makes it surprising to me that you were able to get a 4th-round pick out of him for a flyer. Like, to me, if you're having him come to your team to be a 3rd-round pick, or a 3rd-string quarterback that you have to develop, that you may never get anything out of, because
a 4th-round pick is a lot to give up for
the potential is maybe gone. Yeah, 4th-round pick is kind of surprising.
You give him a conditional 5 or a 6. If he's on the roster, you bump him up 1. But, like,
maybe
to give up, and that's the thing. You gave up a 4th-round pick, and then you have another guy in a Cooper Rush. And, like, I don't understand. I think this just creates problems for Dallas. I don't like the concept of doing this for Dallas. For the Niners, I applaud what they did. They made a massive fucking mistake. And we talked about it during that draft. That draft was the first year that this show is really like we went in hard on the draft process. I was up and down on Trey Lance because he hasn't played a lot of football. I hated homeboy out in New York. And Zach Wilson, Jesus Christ, I almost forgot his name. But we knew who could maybe play, who couldn't play. And then that draft was so weird. There was a chance that Mac Jones was going to be in that spot. And they end up with Trey Lance. It was just they made a huge, huge mistake. But they were able to say, we made a huge mistake. Let's fucking get rid of him, get whatever we can. And this is something that follower of the show, Joe Rockstar, talks about all the time. Stop letting your ego fuck up the football team. You fucked up. You took Trey Lance. You should not have taken him. Don't continue to hold on and get yourself fired. Admit that you fucked up. Get something back for him and run with the guy that you have that you think can win you games in a Brock Purdy. I love that for the 49ers organization.
Yeah. Now, Joe was not a fan of this trade, though. He wanted to just keep him as a third round or a third string quarterback.
He thought that you could get more for Trey Lance. He was not happy with what was received in compensation because they gave up so much. But to get anything, in my opinion, is good.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't going to play.
Right. And I'll put it this way is no one's going to care about the 3 first-round picks that you gave up to get him because you got Brock Purdy. If this team didn't have a Brock Purdy on it right now, if Sam Darnold was the guy or something like that,
it'd be a big problem.
And you never saw a Brock Purdy last year or anything like that, and you had to move on from Trey Lance, I don't think that they would be. I think they'd still be pumping resources into him and trying to develop him. But, we would be talking about this way more as such a monumental failure from this team to have done the 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. They got their quarterback of the future in Brock Purdy. Wasn't the same year, but if you want to say it right, but if you want to say that they gave up 3 first-round picks in order to get Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, it sounds like a great deal if you get your quarterback of the future. Like, not a great deal, but I mean, still, you essentially trade 3 first-round picks in return, you get Brock Purdy in a 4th. There's worse trades that have happened. If Brock Purdy wasn't on this team, though, then we're having a much different conversation. So they lucked out.
They did luck out. But the fact that they were able to find a guy, because a lot of times we think that, man, this backup could be the dude. Why isn't he the dude? You could get off of this other bullshit. Like the same thing that were happening with Sam Darnold. Like, man, Sam Darnold doesn't seem like he can play. The guy behind him seems like he can play. It happened with Mike White. Man, Zach Wilson doesn't seem like he can play. Mike White seems like he can play. Just fucking make the move. Admit that you were wrong and play the guy who's better. I applaud that by the 49ers organization. Even though that they made a huge fucking mistake, they're taking the steps to correct it because they got lucky and they have a dude.
Yeah. The last thing that I'm going to kind of say with this is that Dak Prescott did make some comments about this whole situation. He said that, moving on from Will Grier because they brought in Dak, it's a real tough situation for him. It sounds like he liked Will Grier. It sounds like he liked the quarterback room, and that you're getting rid of his buddy to bring in a guy that, just means that his buddy is gone. So you're adding a little bit of contention to that quarterback room potentially by bringing in Trey Lance without much benefit. Like, unless somehow Trey Lance has just not blossomed yet and does blossom there in Dallas, which I don't see happening, then cool, it's a great trade. But other than that, I mean, it just seems like you just maybe didn't make Dak as happy because you didn't have his buddy Will Grier around. Yeah,
and you brought in possible competition, and you brought in a name that is going to create storylines. Mm-hmm. If it's not Trey Lance, if it's just some other random dude who didn't have 3 first-round picks traded for him to be drafted, we're not having this conversation. But it's because of the storyline behind Trey Lance that we have to have this conversation. That does not make the media in Dallas any friendlier to Dak Prescott.
Yep. But all right, man, I don't know if there's a whole lot of other news to go over.
So I don't think I have much of anything else. We talked some college football. Navy absolutely stinks, by the way. There were some changes to college football where now the clock no longer stops on a first down. So games go much quicker. with the exception of the last 2 minutes. It stops on every first down, whether you're in play or not. I was like, oh, I'm going to bet the under because the clock's going to be sped up. And Navy just choose the clock and choose the clock and choose the clock. Dude, they're fucking terrible. I took Navy plus the points. I took the dude, it was atrocious. So my college football betting has not off to a great start. However, I am still crushing Major League Baseball with my Guardians bet. But yeah, other than that, I got nothing else. College football is back though. I was pumped. I got to enjoy some college football yesterday with my dad and my son. So that's 3 generations of Carlisle's sitting around watching football. Man, it felt so good.
Awesome. Well, that's great, buddy. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, I've got nothing else for us either. Because
all right,
we're gonna have, like I said, next weekend we'll have a lot more for you because we're going to have all the cuts that are about to take place. Teams have to drop down to that 53-man roster. They're gonna have practice squads being built. We have our fantasy football draft show coming up. Penis.
There's going to be some casualties of guys that we know that you know by name that get cut late. So next week is going to be off the fucking rails with all the news that we got. And we're going to be making all of our predictions, picks, all that shit, talking fantasy. So next week is going to be a very, very busy show.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, I guess we can kind of see our ways out of here.
All right, let's do that. Guys, this is the Lineman Lounge. I am Sleeveless Mike. The man to my right is Evo. We appreciate any time you guys come and spend some time with us. We know that your time is probably the most valuable thing that you have. I know I consider my time the most valuable thing that I have. So anytime you spend time with us, we appreciate it. If you want to interact with the show, go on the Facebook group, the Facebook page. We have TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and I am super active recently on the Twitter machine. Oh, I'm sorry, not Twitter anymore. X. Yeah. So Elon has changed it to X. So we're on X, constantly on there as well. If you want to watch the show, go to the YouTube page, like it, subscribe, hit the bell so that way you get notifications every time that we go live. If you want to listen to our beautiful voices and you don't want to watch, go to any podcast platform. We are on there. Give us a listen, give us a download. But guys, thank you very much. I am going to go root for my son and his football game. We will be back next week. Early next week, we are going to do a weekday show, probably Friday, not weekends. So guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you next week. Let's get the fuck out of here. See you.